Okay, you know, whenever Goji Center drops a video about someone failing miserably, we gotta go on.
They try and ground it with some realism, and we're gonna try and do exactly the same thing to debunk this Indominus Rex 3.0. So remember, 70% of this genome is made up of small animals. So the 30% of the T-Rex and the Saurophaganax are not gonna off-put that, but was going to go berserk, turn into some type of sociopath, worse than the original Indominus Rex. It'd probably be around the size of a Velociraptor. Hey, the natural predator to a great ape is weakness to humans. They've used the Saurophaganax clearly for its teeth, the serrated jaws. So the genomes here, they're non-aggressive. Huge weakness to human pathogens. Indominus Rex 3.0. 3.0 is exactly the same as the 2.0.
It's 2.0.
Well, looks like this just keeps happening, and people never learn. If there are any two words the internet has ruined when it comes to debates, it's, well, actually, but looks like it's our turn, because a certain someone wanted to weigh in on the hybrid that the...
Oh, and guys, if you want to do a small hybrid war, which only small creatures are allowed, then go to my channel, go to my posts, but quickly finish this video. Always finish the video first.
internet has collectively decided to try and kill. Someone thought they were onto something and thought they could seriously school Goji Center about our own creation before throwing their own name into the ring. Our response? Take a seat. You might learn something for your
I'm
own
sitting down right now.
because today on Goji Center, class is once again in session.
And anything about Goji Center. See, the reason why I ain't really messing with them, yo, Triton. The reason why I don't mess with Goji Center is because, well, although I do somewhat know what I'm doing, like I learned from stuff, like I learned from Goji Center, you know, all the stuff from Goji Center and everything. I learned because I was gonna add tardigrade while I already had poison dart frog, and I'm pretty sure that's what messed up Hank really bad. Whatever is his own poison. So I didn't really add him into the hybrid.
The report in Scrutiny for today, a video published by YouTuber Shadows, who made a few statements that cannot be forgiven. Shadows' video tackled the subject from an interesting angle. Granted, the Jurassic franchise has always had a fickle...
Got what? Oh, that nice. DJ got some chocolate. I can't remember what it's called, but
the animals involved are supposedly to be completely normal flesh and blood animals. On the other hand, some amount of fantasy for the sake of spectacle is always to be expected in fiction. Still, though, there's always going to be limits when you're not talking about something with flat-out kaiju like the Godzilla franchise. When we began talking about and introducing our own hybrids back in 2023, it was common consensus amongst everyone watching that hybrid creation like this in the real modern-day world is flat-out impossible due to many real-life genetic hurdles that need to be...
Yeah, I guess pretty much. Someone tried to challenge,
bypassed. That is, being able to extract DNA from extinct species that died off millions of years ago. Beyond that, the next challenges would be selecting genetic contributors that will mostly positively create a build for a brand new animal with a specific purpose, which in the 2.0's case is to create a primarily terrestrial creature whose purpose is to act as a localized extinction event.
What's that? Oh, anyways, I gotta make a video right now, bro. Can you not bug me right now? Yo, Maeve, chill, girl, chill. You good, bro? No, she's looking at you. Okay.
To wipe out entire
Remember, push her away if she's
including all life forms and reproduce quickly to attain said goal. That's it. We've been pretty clear about that from the start, and if you've been carefully following this hybrid fiasco, you'd probably know this quite well. Unlike Shadows, who probably skimmed through plenty of videos and posts that mentioned this repeatedly, and for some odd reason kept calling it 3.0? It was at this point when we knew this was going to be fun. Come on, dude, it's 2.0. Where did the 3 come from? This, maybe? Anyone who actually watched the video would know the 3.0 is completely unnecessary. Additionally, before revealing their creation like other infamous examples like Goji Guy's Hank and Dangerville's Primatus, Shadows thought it would be a good idea to nerf the 2.0 as much as they could by trying to smack it with the realism stick. So let's investigate some of the claims before we completely debunk these statements. And at the end, we'll see who wields this metaphorical stick better.
Spring is vastly approaching, and spring is the perfect time to...
Honestly, Goji Center and Dom 2.0 is just scary. Like Indom 3.0 would be like 2.0.
One of the bold claims that Shadows put forth is that the 2.0 would be far smaller than the Indominus Rex, producing some graphs claiming that the 2.0 was a runt. Also mentioning that the large size of the Indominus Rex was due to Giganotosaurus and additional big-bodied species in the genome, including Tyrannosaurus and Deinosuchus. With the Giga additive removed from the 2.0 and the Deinosuchus swapped out with the African dwarf crocodile for more armor, the claim was that the small species like short-tailed shrew would shrink the 2.0 down to being a fraction of the size of the original. Except they seem to have forgotten something. Them. Contrary to other claims, viewers who remember our size chart videos might recall that Tyrannosaurus Rex currently holds the spot as the largest predatory dinosaur. Giganotosaurus is certainly up there as well, and any hybrid using a lot of one or both of them is going to wind up huge. Shadows claims that because shrew is in the genome, its contribution would be enough to shrink the 2.0 down to halfway point. And also keep in mind, what they're using as a basis is Jurassic World's logic. So here's how this goes. Under this logic, assuming that the 2.0 should be the size of a velociraptor, the Indominus Rex, on the other hand, would technically also be reduced greatly. The use of cuttlefish, pit viper, frog would also shrink the Indominus. But did it? No. The argument against this is that the Indominus Rex does have a greater number of larger animals in its genome. T-Rex, Deinosuchus, Giga, Therizinosaurus. But what Shadows doesn't seem to get is that these things do not affect the size of a hybrid as you think it does.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is that when building a hybrid, step number one is always choosing a base genome. This base genome is largely going to establish how large and what body type your hybrid will mostly resemble. What Shadows thinks we did, and everyone who participated in the hybrid war did, was that we all put animals in a blender, and every creature contributed an equal amount to the animal's genome, which cannot be more wrong. The 2.0, for example, uses the base genome of T-Rex. According to more recent studies, it is now well established that T-Rex could in fact reach the size of 42 feet in length, with very few exceptionally large individuals probably breaching these sizes. So the length of the 2.0, regardless of the absent Giga, is still very much supported.
Yep.
Which is the same case of the Indominus Rex. Had Shadows actually paid attention in our video introducing the 2.0, he'd know very well that the 2.0 was actually shrunk in size in comparison to a full-grown Indominus Rex. A sweet spot to better hunt down animals of smaller size classes, but retaining enough mass to take down the big ones. The extra additions, such as longer ape arms, full body armor, shorter hind limbs, and shrew's iron-covered teeth, were all possible thanks to advanced gene editing technology, seen in Jurassic World. But believe it or not, a form of this actually exists in real life. To further explain this, we won't use Jurassic Park's logic anymore. We'll go further. We'll use real-life examples. What you're looking at right now is a glow-in-the-dark cat. Thanks to real-life gene editing technology, geneticists were able to select a few genes from a jellyfish and add them to the cat's genome that builds the skin on the face of this cat. Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize the majority of this animal's genome is made up of house cats, not jellyfish. This kitty is not about to sprout stingers or need to live in water. Also, did the kitten shrink or increase in size? No. See? Careful, meticulous gene splicing is a real thing. And the reason this cat is the same size of a regular...
I'm pretty sure that's the same thing with, like, the, axolotl, right? Yeah, they messed with the... Not really messed, but they changed its genome, and now we got, like, axolotls that glow or something.
House cat is the same reason why the Indominus Rex turned out to be 40-plus feet in Jurassic World. And also why the 2.0, despite having small animals in its genome, is not the size of a raptor. So, instead of splicing huge chunks for every genetic contributor in, the 2.0 was made by taking a real, biologically accurate Tyrannosaurus and swapping in different sized pieces of DNA depending on what was needed. This is how you make a hybrid.
Yeah!
Throwing everything in a blender, which is what the folks at Shadows are failing to understand. Note how the smaller gene sources for the 2.0 were largely restricted to isolated body parts, like the arms, teeth, skin, and egg-producing organs. Keep this in mind as we continue to revise Shadows' wild claims. Shadows tried to make a big deal about claiming the great ape DNA would be some kind of hidden weakness. Namely, that great apes have weak immune systems, and that they become violent and sociopathic when left alone. So the resulting hybrid would be a chaotic mess of a brute. At this point...
Well, remember, it's not alone. It has, well, its daughters, I guess.
The web has been flooded with horror stories, and a certain scene from Nope making it look like some of our nearest relatives turn into berserk psychopaths at the drop of a hat. Here's the reality check. Great apes, and especially chimpanzees, are not orcs. Chimpanzees can absolutely be violent. Just ask the various monkeys and game they dispatch. But has anyone else ever noticed the horror stories going around the web are always the same 3 cases over and over again? To give the Cliff Notes 2023 reevaluation by anthropologist and war expert R. Brian Ferguson found that some of the Gombe chimpanzee wars casualties were probably the result of leopard attacks. The infamous face ripper Travis, for example, was a drugged animal kept in horrid conditions. And if anyone wants to bring up the attack at the animal sanctuary, we dare you to take a good look at the humans who targeted that couple after the fact and tell us the chimps were the only brutal ones here. Now, compare that to the thousands of other chimpanzees that are raised in isolation that didn't act out. If bad living conditions automatically turned chimpanzees into chaotic brutes, we'd be seeing attacks all the time. What Shadows tried to do in saying the 2.0 would be a senseless brute was take a tiny substrata of evidence and label every single chimpanzee in both the wild and captivity as a senseless maniac. This dude owes chimpanzees a public apology.
Yeah.
We have
Bro,
over
no,
600
I don't want
vendors
him
worldwide.
So this
There's
isn't
lot on
much
our
of a
plate.
fight.
Way
This is
too
just
many
more of
emails.
a
The truth is that yes, chimps can be violent, but they aren't really psychos. They definitely aren't more psychotic than a lion or a horse, animals that kill more humans annually than chimps. Now, if we wanted the 2.0 to be as berserk as possible, putting it in the same enclosure that the Indominus Rex lived in would get that job done. But nowhere in any of our previous videos did we mention that the 2.0 was kept in such conditions.
yeah. Let's see, what does he claim? A wild
There
card.
was an awful lot of supposing going on in a video claiming to dissect something. One of the key points was that the 2.0 would be another basket case of mishmash traits like the Scorpius Rex. Issues were brought up like the Tyrannosaur DNA screwing up the eyesight or whiptail lizard contribution leading it to drop its tail in the
Yeah, that's what I mean. T-Rex doesn't have terrible eyesight, bro. He's going with Jurassic World stuff.
worst way possible, severely compromising it. In other words, a self-owning by the hybrid's own genome. Unfortunately for Shadows, this is not the case of the 2.0 electrocuting its own brain with zappy fish DNA like some Hall of Shame entries. Let's go through these claims one by one, because, boy, there are a lot of them.
Also added the whiptail lizard in. Again, that's presumably because the whiptail lizard can regenerate cells. I mean, the whiptail lizard drops its tail. Literally can...
The whiptail lizard, according to Shadows, was added for regeneration and claimed it would affect the tail in falling off. This is something they made up out of thin air. Recall that the other genome additions were meticulously selected from each contributing animal. The only reason the whiptail lizard makes itself present in the 2.0's genome is for its sexual organs. The ability to reproduce asexually via apomictic parthenogenesis. This allows the 2.0 to reproduce exact copies of herself repeatedly without needing a mate. And that's it. Let's see what else Shadows made up.
Couple it with the T-Rex's poor eyesight.
The eyesight. Here's yet another reminder that the
That's the thing I was confused about, bro. This isn't Jurassic World. He's using accurate T-Rex, bro. They have better eyesight than people.
2.0 was not made with any dinosaurs from the Jurassic Park franchise. This one was made from real-life animals.
Yeah.
This makes Shadows claim that the eyesight of the 2.0 would be messed with obsolete. And even if it was a JP T-Rex that we used, note how this didn't even affect the original Indominus Rex or Indoraptor.
Comparing the original and the 2.0/3.0, you'll notice a stark contrast. It's missing several dinosaurs. In fact, the 2.0 has only 9 species of genome, where the original actually has 13. They decided to take out the Therizinosaurus, the Deinosuchus, the Giga, the Carno, the Ragoff.
Next, the claim that the lesser number of genetic contributors in the 2.0 was a handicap couldn't be further from the truth. Let us introduce Shadows with a new word: congruity. Put very simply, the less contributors that share more characteristics, the better. In
Pretty much.
2.0's case, 8 out of 9 of the contributors are vertebrates. 7 out of 9 have 4 limbs. 9 out of 9 dispatch prey with their hinged jaws. 5 out of 9 of them use their forelimbs for attack or locomotion. And the similarities go on and on. And every one of these animals contributed only what is required to make the 2.0 functional, with a larger percentage of them with agreeable instincts. For instance, dwarf crocodiles are known to be very reclusive, around humans, simply because we aren't on the menu and weight class. Shadows claimed that these are very passive, but try telling that to the reptiles, small mammals, and crustaceans it eats all the time. Give this animal a larger body and this thing would be a Caprasuchus reincarnated, hunting us instead. This animal hunts on land more often, similar to the 2.0, does not use the death roll like other species, and of course comes with the perk of full body armor, which is why this animal was picked over another larger croc with more conflicting instincts. Next up is the utter disrespect on the short-tailed shrew.
The utter disrespect, bro. I don't know how, but I feel like I've used this guy for almost every, dinosaur hybrid that wasn't a bug.
You remember correctly, and paid attention, was used primarily for its iron-ingrained teeth, venomous saliva, and thrashing jaw motion when attacking, which works in tandem with the T-Rex's bite and very strong, deep-rooted teeth.
They've used the Saurophaganax clearly for its teeth, the serrated jaws.
No, this doesn't have Saurophaganax serrated teeth as Shadow so boldly claimed.
Yeah.
We never said it did. The addition of the shrew did come with some attributes that initially may seem as drawbacks, but given the intended purpose of this animal, which is to kill everything, this is actually a good thing. Higher metabolism requires this creature to hunt more often and store its prey once it goes catatonic to eat for later.
So them great ape arms we can see on there wouldn't be all that big. They wouldn't even have them claws. Sure, they'd be quite muscular, but they wouldn't have them claws on the end of it. But we can say that comes from the Velociraptor.
Shadows completely misunderstood the composition of the 2.0's arms, claiming that the arms would be small on a small hybrid, which we debunked this already, and that this thing won't have claws, which we clearly stated in the original video featuring the 2.0 that these came from Saurophaganax, or currently classified as Allosaurus anax indefinitely, not from a Velociraptor. The use of Great Ape for the 2.0 was for the following: providing fast twitch muscles for the enlarged arms, extra digits including a thumb for manipulating objects and using tools, and for an enhanced level of problem solving and intelligence, fully bolstered by T-Rex collaborative nature and heightened senses. One of the wildly preposterous claims that sent ripples across Goji Center HQ was this one. One of the advantages of this hybrid and having a large dinosaur biology is resilience to smaller, lesser mammalian viruses. The statement that apes are highly vulnerable to a sneeze, for instance, would hold up had this creature been made up of mostly mammals with a predominant mammalian anatomy. This, however, isn't the case. The flesh and bone that makes up most of this hybrid is similar to that of a T-Rex, and the 2.0 influence of ape in the brain and arms isn't enough for it to be a detrimental kryptonite factor on its saurian immune system. Besides, apes are already more resilient than people might think, with faster acting immune responses than most mammals. Additionally, the hybrid wouldn't have the compressed sinuses and snout that leads to infections apes like us might get, and any issues that do exist can be patched up by the dwarf croc and dinosaurian biology that is heavily resilient to mammalian viruses. The 2.0 was made to be a great carrier of various viruses, able to survive holding those infections for a long time thanks to not being as badly affected as other animals. It might inevitably die after a long time once a strain mutates in such a way that it will prove lethal, but not before acting as a horrible bridge to so many pathogens for anything that came across it. We could keep going, but we covered just about all the big crazy claims mentioned in Shadow's deplorable demonstration of his understanding of the 2.0 and really hybrids in general. That hybrid they're making with human DNA? Well, all of you know where we're sending that hybrid.
Okay, well, my mistake. It wasn't really a battle, but yeah. Oh, shame, jump scare. Bye, guys. I said bye.